Tonight, what's happening to Minnesota?
We are losing jobs. We are losing value. We are becoming poorer.
We have never had this massive amount of migration, so much, so quickly leaving the state of Minnesota.
This has been bloody awful.
Businesses are packing up.
All the investors, they're all wiped out. It's been cataclysmic, really.
Hot spots, once teeming with restaurants and stores, now empty and dangerous.
People are done. They are closing shop and things are being boarded up and they have lost hope.
They said, if you are going to get shot in downtown Minneapolis, it is going to be in this 3-block radius.
There's open warfare on the streets.
I feel like the city is run by gangs.
There was this vision that we're going to get rid of the police department.
We've lost 40% of the department.
People are going to get killed. I assure you.
Our education system, once ranked 6th in the nation, now fallen to 17th.
13 years ago, we would have laughed if we had ever thought that we would be like Louisiana and Mississippi when it comes to education.
A state government in chaos.
This is a horrible way to govern and do this for the state of Minnesota.
A city government that's anti-growth.
It is surprising what a few bad city council members can do to a city.
Business has become sort of an enemy.
We're killing the goose that laid the golden egg.
So we basically now have a socialist city council. Not just a majority, but a veto-proof majority.
This is why I'm a Marxist. This is why I'm a socialist.
Our city is dying, and they don't seem to take it seriously.
Have you ever read the DSA platform?
I have. It's frightening.
What can we learn from others who face similar crises?
Knife. Drop the knife, ma'am.
Sorry.
It may cost us $50,000 to train someone, but it'll cost $5 million if something happens.
And where will we choose to go from here?
This city can't survive another 4 years of this. We cannot survive.
This is never-before-released surveillance footage of a full-blown gunfight happening on the streets of Minneapolis, Nicollet and 19th, in the middle of high-density housing. It's a face-off between enemies taking their war to the streets. Computer analysis documents 65 gunshots in 48 seconds. This is what's becoming the new normal in Minneapolis. Good evening, I'm Rick Capcella. I spent a couple of decades in this town as a news anchor and investigative reporter. Then I started a business running my own media company here. A few years ago, I started to hear from several friends across the state, concerned about things like increasing crime, the economics of the market. Some told me they didn't feel safe in the cities anymore. So for a couple of years now, I've been researching what's been ailing MSP. I started to reach out to a great network of friends and colleagues, other reporters, got them involved. And tonight, we're going to show you why business owners are leaving the state right now, the effect all of this has on the rest of us, and what we can do to right this ship. We begin at ground zero on a normal business day in Uptown. This is where Aveda used to be. You still see?
It's a beautiful day. You would think there'd be a bunch of people here.
Yeah, well, where are they going to park? They took out all the parking.
There's not think about it. There's not a single parking spot on the street. Zero. Zilcho.
It's really remarkable.
It is remarkable.
This was truly among the more happening spots for a while.
Absolutely.
Around the world, yes. Dining in that place.
But look at this. Here we are. The heart of Uptown.
This was rocking. The rooftop there, everything looks like closed.
Isn't this crazy? This is the Apple Store.
This was a high-end spot.
That's as high-end as you get. Of all of this, Uptown is probably the saddest story because it was so good and so awesome and so popular, and it's part of all of us, and now it's shuttered. Right? It's really depressing. The city can't survive another 4 years of this. We cannot survive. People they are done. They are closing shop and things are being boarded up and they are burnt out and they have lost hope.
All of us have stories. And for many of us in the Twin Cities lately, these are far from the best of times. Jim Rubin's story is particularly insightful. He's an example of someone who, like many of us, has benefited from these cities over a lifetime. He grew up in Hastings. Mom was an elementary school teacher. Dad worked to control data. He overcame an early learning disability and poor grades to finish among the top in his class, which landed him a scholarship to St. Cloud State. He earned degrees in both computer science and math. That competency drove him and helped him afford the purchase of his first apartment building by the age of 26. Today, he's among the largest individual owners of apartment units in the city of Minneapolis.
There's some rough stuff in here. There was a lot of older buildings that are kind of run down, and so my strategy was, buy a building, fix it up, make it nicer, and keep moving. And as we did it, the neighborhood just got better and better and better.
Over time, he estimates he's provided housing, homes, to something on the order of 15,000 people.
It's a lot of debt, a lot of risk, right? And this is where it's key, right? As long as things are improving, you're always fine. When that stops, it's when the music stops, which is what happened. That's when it gets really hard.
Most Minnesotans watching this story know all too well the day the music stopped in the Twin Cities. It was the horrifying killing of George Floyd by a policeman, the world watching on video. Then the rioting, the torching of the cities. It took 4 days to deploy fully the National Guard. For many people living in the Twin Cities, the pandemic was the second greatest challenge of 2020.
COVID was a nationwide thing that kind of affected us all equally, but yet we came out worse than other cities, right? So it's not COVID. The problem was how the city responded after George Floyd. Do you scrape the police department, start anew, or do you kind of work with what's there and try to make it better? When the defund movement or the anti-police movement happened and law enforcement recoiled, crime spiked. In basically end of summer, fall of 2020, the top, I don't know if it's a third or a half of our tenant base left, okay?
Literally flat out exited.
They gave notice. Some just broke their lease. They paid fees just to get out. They were so afraid.
Rubin has owned a set of apartments on the south side of downtown Minneapolis for years. Law enforcement has confirmed 4 people have been murdered within a block of this place since the George Floyd killing. So you've got 2 of the 4 corners here, is what you've got.
Yeah, but for the last 4 years, all year long, this is an open air drug market. And sometimes there's literally 30 drug dealers and people will just come up, park right, you'll stop here and somebody comes up, does their drug deal and they move. It's like a drive-through drug dealer. With drug dealers, bad stuff happens. Right? A lot of them have guns.
Which brings us back to that exclusive surveillance footage you saw at the beginning of this segment. The gun battle from just a year ago at 19th and Nicollet, right near one of Jim's apartment buildings. Again, a computer analysis we commissioned documented 65 gunshots in 48 seconds. Cameras captured 15 people with guns drawn. Rubin and others who work downtown say this is how it works in a city with too few police, more than 300 officers short compared to 2019, and a city council still actively working to cut the police budget despite a public vote against defunding the police.
This has been bloody awful. There's a lot of damage. You're not happy when the city you've been working on all your life turns on you, right? It is surprising what a few bad city council members can do to a city. At the peak of Mint Properties, we had 78 physical buildings and well over 1,500 apartments. And this was the keys for all of them. So we have been selling properties.
Reuben sold about a third of the units he's had. He's been reinvesting his money out of state in what he calls better business climates.
Every time we sell a building, we got to take 2 or 3 signs off the building. And now here's this Mint Properties sign graveyard. It's the pressure, it's the financial pressures, it's the banks calling, it's the criminals that you're doing. I can't do this, right? I have to make a switch. I can't do this anymore. This is too horrible.
And Jim Rubin is not alone.
It's kind of like a perfect storm.
Jim Freitag is an executive with CBRE, a global commercial real estate and investment firm. He's a go-to for major corporations here trying to sell off buildings they no longer need. His team put together this quick-look assessment of the vacancy rates among some of the city's most iconic buildings. The dark shades in the windows here represent occupied spaces, the green light indicating what's vacant and available. Blue lights show subleased spaces where leaseholders want out. Look at the city center. The data shows we didn't have vacancy like this in the years before 2020. All of this happened on the backside of COVID and the rioting and the increased safety concerns downtown as the city council has continued to cut police funding.
If you look at all those buildings, the tallest ones in town, pre-pandemic, if you will, were probably in round numbers, all worth about $300 million apiece.
Freitag says the drop in value of those same buildings today is shocking.
60, 70%, in some cases 80 or 90% discount from previous valuations or previous sales.
60 to 90%.
I mean, it's a big number. It's a big number.
In fairness, vacancies are up in many parts of the U.S., but this year, MSP logged the highest level of financial distress in the country. Data analysis reveals nearly half, 49.7% of the building loans in MSP are in distress, meaning behind on payments, requiring new financing. Several investors here have backed out of the cities at substantial losses, including the stunning exit of the Ameriprise building. It sold last about 10 years ago for $200 million. It sold earlier this year for a little over $6 million. That's about 3 cents on the dollar.
We're killing the goose that laid the golden egg.
Russ Nelson, sometimes called the Dean of Twin Cities commercial real estate, helped create the city's downtown improvement district years ago.
I know we were just talking about this. There's another place near here.
It used to be Oracle Centers called Forum, which sold for $10 a square foot, which, if you want to put it in context, you can't carpet a building for that amount of money.
But it's not just businesses that are affected. Listen to the voices of some who remember a very different city.
Minneapolis was the place to go out. It was such a great time. The warehouse district was thriving.
It had all the things that I could want.
Being able to meet our friends every Friday and Saturday night and dance all night.
All the sports teams I could want. I could go catch a show. I could go to the theater if I wanted.
You just thought it would always be there.
But this is what they see today.
I would certainly not take my daughters after a concert to downtown.
A few years ago, Erin Fitzgerald set out to buy up some of those empty buildings in downtown and breathe life back into the city.
It's my home. It's my community. I want people who come down here for a Twins game to be happy and joyful.
One of the buildings she bought turned out to be in one of the roughest areas of town.
When I was doing a ride-along with the first precinct, they said, if you are going to get shot in downtown Minneapolis, it is going to be in this 3-block radius, right outside our front door.
I talk to people all the time that will say things to me like, yeah, I just don't go downtown as much because I know someone that got mugged.
A.K. Kamara owns a delivery business in the downtown metro area.
If you're a business owner and the perception is that things are very, very dangerous, then it starts to just kill the business economy.
Which brings us back to a more sobering set of statistics, employment data. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics has been measuring 49 major markets every month since the pandemic. Specifically, they've been comparing how payroll employment has changed within each market since February of 2020. Take a look at how this plays out. These are the top performing markets surveyed. Collectively, these 14 cities added more than 2.7 million additional workers since February 2020. Minneapolis-St. Paul metro area ranks 42nd out of the 49 markets measured. Since 2020, MSP has lost more jobs than it gained. We are net negative 800 jobs.
So I think there was this expectation that once the COVID hangover went away, then we would see a normalization of population trends. In fact, the exact opposite has happened. We are seeing increasing amounts of wealth migrate out of the state of Minnesota.
Pat Garofalo is a former Republican legislator and data hound.
You've heard about people talk about climate denialism. This is fiscal denialism.
He says in just 3 years, between 2022 and 2024, more people moved out of our state than moved in, resulting in a net loss of $5 billion of Minnesota wealth. And before you think this is all about people moving for warmer weather, consider what we've lost just to Wisconsin.
In 3 years, Minnesota has lost $500 million of adjusted gross income to Wisconsin. And again, that is a net.
He says Minnesota is also net negative with Iowa and South Dakota too.
So you have to ask yourself, what is it that is encouraging so many Minnesotans, particularly those with money, to be abandoning our state?
Garofalo says he's noticed a real uptick in people leaving the state after 2013, when Minnesota created a fourth tier of taxes, which made Minnesota among the highest income tax states in the nation. Taxes are a major part of the challenge for businesses in Minnesota. Corporate, at 9.8%, is the #1 highest flat corporate tax rate in the United States. Capital gains, also 9.85, second highest in the nation. Commercial property taxes, top 10 nationally, and Minnesota's estate tax is among the highest in the nation at 13 to 16%, over $3 million. Business owners are telling us this is the greatest motivator to exit. It's gotten to a point where folks in banking and finance say they have a fiduciary responsibility to inform their clients that their best financial options are to go somewhere else.
You know, most businesses aren't going to say, hey, I deserve better. They're just going to make other choices and leave. You know, we need to sort of right-size the ship.
There's maybe a handful of people that are willing to invest in Minneapolis, but even fewer lenders that are willing to lend on these buildings.
It used to be that we were the center of the universe for mainframe computers, then medical devices. So if you were interested in any of those things, this was it. We're not the center of the universe for anything now.
If you want people to invest here, what are we missing? Right now, there are so many cities offering incentives for converting buildings and helping to revitalize downtowns, and it's everywhere. We're tracking at least 8 different markets that just have really great taxation benefits, funds set aside for converting buildings, and we're going where the governments are making it easy.
But according to Democrat Gene Pawlowski, who recently retired after 38 years in the Minnesota House, you should not expect the current government to fix this problem anytime soon.
This is a horrible way to govern and do this for the state of Minnesota.
Pawlowski wants you to know the legislative process in Minnesota is broken.
And we've turned it into a bill factory. Really, it's the Wild West of bills. We have now 5,486 bills for 134 members who can only meet 120 days. It is impossible that you can even process that amount of legislation. The fundamental problem is that we have grown into a society where there literally are no limits. I mean, you just can't keep passing tax increases.
There's another question businesses ask before they choose to move here, and that is, are there enough workers in the state to fill its jobs?
We're seeing this really slow growing workforce across the state that just makes it really hard for an economy to grow, for employers to find workers.
Susan Brower has spent her career looking at population trends right here in Minnesota. Since 2019, Minnesota's population has grown slower than 31 other states. It's just math.
It's just math. There's a reason why there aren't more people here.
For the first time in its history, Minnesota now has more older adults than school-age children. Add to this younger people moving out, and that equals a population in decline.
I think we're in a place today that is more uncertain, it's more precarious, and it demands different solutions than we've had in the past.
In the next 10 years, the healthcare profession alone is expected to have nearly 200,000 job openings right here, unfilled. As Minnesota's elderly population continues to grow, who is going to take care of them?
I think we absolutely have the capacity to make things better for more people, but that doesn't mean we will. And yeah, I'm worried about it.
And there's another potential crisis happening in Minnesota that is not going to help the bigger picture.
Before the first bell rings, before fingers tap the iPads, some kids are already behind.
I'm Nina Bupasavan. Minnesota schools were once a source of pride, respected nationwide for performance. Now, more than half of our students can't read or do math at grade level. Billions are being spent, laws are being passed, but inside Minnesota classrooms, something still isn't working. We went looking for answers.
The agenda that is being pushed into schools is something that we don't agree with.
Mike and Michelle Syme grew up going to public schools. They never imagined they'd pull their 4 children out.
We had to leave. I can't sit here and wait for them to go on and on about this or that indoctrination when we're so fantastically underperforming.
The past 2 years have been a low point for Minnesota's academic performance, with students failing the basics in reading, math, and science. Scores that once made us a national model are now a warning sign. Mississippi and Louisiana, 2 states long criticized for poor educational outcomes, now outperform Minnesota in reading.
13 years ago, we would have laughed if we had ever thought that we would be like Louisiana and Mississippi when it comes to education.
Peter Hutchinson is a former superintendent of Minneapolis Public Schools. He says while the pandemic did cause real learning issues, other states have been able to bounce back, but not Minnesota.
Being able to read is like a minimum requirement for survival. And that really goes back to choices that were made a long time ago about how to teach reading.
For years, Minnesota classrooms used the whole language approach, teaching kids to memorize entire words rather than sound them out. When they saw a word they hadn't memorized, they were told to guess, using clues like the pictures. Minnesota schools are now switching to a phonics-based method, backed by decades of research. It's required under the state's READ Act. But 2 years out, reading scores still haven't improved.
So were you surprised by the latest test scores?
They're really an indication of our system, not our students.
Education Minnesota President Monica Byron points to a different problem that she says skews the results.
Many of our students are not taking that test. Many of our families recognize that their students and our schools are being penalized because of this test.
But according to the Minnesota Department of Education, 95.6% of all students took the reading test. And they add that absent students do not impact the scores. But Minnesota students are not just struggling with reading. Teachers say they just don't have enough time to adequately teach the basics anymore. Minnesota began mandating something called social emotional learning, or SEL, 10 years ago. Teachers tell us SEL and other non-academic requirements can sometimes cut science, math, and history to as little as 3 hours a day.
Reading, math, science, on top of now a social emotional curriculum, it can be very challenging to get that in.
SEL teaches the kinds of things parents might commonly teach, such as how to deal with bullying. But some of the SEL teaching now crosses over into political advocacy. This is an excerpt from an SEL class Minnesota approved through this past spring. It's part of a curriculum for 5- and 6-year-olds called Woke Kindergarten. Notice the portrayal of police and pictures associated with the Minneapolis PD.
Who keeps us safe? We keep us safe. We feed us. We house us. We don't police us. We don't arrest us.
Critics say they've gone too far.
Think of a 5- and 6-year-old thinking that they are the only ones keeping other people safe.
House Speaker Lisa Damuth thinks parents need to get more involved in what's being taught.
I not only would reach out to my district and ask what the agenda is, but then I would reach out to my legislator.
You know, it's easy to blame schools for the falling test scores, but there's something larger than that.
Tom Bach was a dynamic presence at the state legislature from the mid-1990s until he retired a couple years ago.
I asked my son, does Avery get letter grades? No letter grades. They just get a pass or fail. At what point do you start rewarding performance, or is just doing okay good enough?
More than a decade ago, educators began objecting to the use of standardized tests as a measure of learning. Minnesota made it optional. Now there's confusion over what should be taught.
It's the teachers' union. Are they producing what the parents want? No, they're not.
You have to get out of denial and accept you have a problem.
I think it will take time. I think it will take effort, but I do think that there's hope.
Hope if changes can be made. Which brings us to another crucial question people want to know before moving to Minnesota. How safe is it to live here?
1300 Shingle Creek.
The Hennepin County Sheriff's Office serves 46 cities, but their impact team spends most of its time patrolling just one, Minneapolis.
You got your ID on you? Yeah.
There's been a critical staffing shortage in the Minneapolis Police Department since 2020, making the uptick in crime harder to fight. So Hennepin County has stepped up.
You guys have enough squads or you need more?
The Hennepin County team covers some of the city's most frequently reported crime areas, handling everything from illegal weapons and drug busts to shootings.
Copy, I'll swing that way. Okay, you just want to step out the vehicle for me, please? Just keep your hands up.
This stop starts out as a routine search.
You can't consume marijuana if you're under 21.
Crushed margarita can underneath the seat. There you go.
Oh yeah, I smelled it too.
But suddenly, an alleged victim shows up and claims the people in this car robbed him.
Wait, what?
Just robbed him.
Where?
Down the street.
Did you call 911? Did you report it?
We did all that.
Any weapons or they just...
Yeah, they robbed me under gunpoint.
And this is where MPD's short staffing problems play out. They're tied up with other calls around the city. By the time they break free, the alleged victim has left. Both teams search the suspect's car.
Oh, that dude did have a bunch of cash on. One of them did.
But they don't find a gun. And lacking a positive ID, they must let the suspects go. That's just one example of a nightly struggle Minneapolis police face with an overburdened staffing problem functioning at crisis level. I'm Rashini Rajkumar. In 2019, then police chief Madera Arredondo told City Council Minneapolis would need 1,200 officers by 2025. 1,200. Instead, the Minneapolis Police Department today has little more than 600 officers.
The situation we're in today is not sustainable, in terms of manpower and resources.
It's no secret what caused the shortage. 2020, the city burning, crime skyrocketing.
The month of June 2020 had almost as many shooting victims in 1 month as what had been normal for the city in about a half a year.
Hundreds of officers resigned in the midst of the city's darkest time.
You know, they've had elected officials and other people tell them that they're all racists and they're all killers, but they've been extremely hurt. It has an effect.
Chief Brian O'Hara says the MPD lost 40% of its department then, 50% of its investigators, many of whom were among the most experienced leaders on the team. Nothing drives home the dire consequences of that staffing shortage more than the tragic case of Officer Jamal Mitchell last year.
Squad 512, look, we have at least 2 victims outside at the location bleeding.
Responding on the scene of a shooting alone.
Hey, are we all, hey!
Without a partner.
Who shot you? Who shot you? Are there victims inside?
Officer Mitchell approached what appeared to be an injured person, but the perpetrator pulled out a gun and shot him.
And faithful you'll always.
The MPD is still reeling from the loss.
We lost one since I've been here. And even despite that, you have people staying, people recommitting. They are really unbelievable.
The department recently hired 36 new officers, but O'Hara says that's still nowhere near what's needed.
It is going to take years to rebuild the department. Even if we were to hire 100 new hires a year to sworn positions, it takes years for those people to go through all of their training and to have that realized on the street.
In the meantime, many of the most serious crimes continue to rise. Since 2019, the city has seen a 43% jump in homicides, a more than 67% surge in motor vehicle theft, and a 73% increase in vandalism. Add to that the recent shooting at the Annunciation Church that left 2 children dead and 21 injured, launching Minneapolis once again to the top of national news.
Authorities say a heavily armed suspect targeting the students, firing from outside right through the state.
Which brings us back to that ride-along with the Hennepin County team.
12 rounds. Missed it? 12 rounds where? Right here.
Several nights a week, deputies get called to one of the most dangerous intersections in the city.
You put me at 19th and Nick. I haven't seen any victims or anything.
It's that 19th and Nicollet, the same spot where you saw the shootout earlier, in front of Jim Rubin's apartment building. On this night, by the time police responded to the call, the shootout was over. Security cameras weren't helpful. The gunshots happened out of view. However, just 3 nights later, more gunshots. But business owners like Jim Rubin aren't the only ones troubled by crime. A few years ago, a wave of violence hit the University of Minnesota campus. This incident happened 3 years ago. But campus crime remains a real concern.
Our campus is just too dangerous. And I hate to say this, but that's the reality.
Professor George John has taught at the U going on 3 decades.
Number one, I believe, is campus safety, because nothing happens without a certain base level of comfort for safety. And I don't mean all the metrics they collect and stuff. It's how people feel.
Despite proactive measures by campus security and police, crime on the U of M campus remains high.
I know a lot of my friends, we really worry about our safety, especially after 2 girls got mugged 2 doors down from my house the other day.
In the meantime, Minneapolis police and the impact team from Hennepin County continue their uphill battle to turn things around, despite a show of no confidence from City Council and a prosecutor who says felony cases from low-level traffic stops will no longer be prosecuted.
The criminals are paying attention, people. It will put more lives at risk.
O'Hara believes change won't come unless city leaders are willing to show support.
It's going to take a lot more investment into the police department, not less funding, more, to really put us into a position where we can have a force that's sustainable.
So, what's stopping us? That's up next.
"2020 was not the first time Minnesota police shocked the world. 2016, Philando Castile was shot reaching for his license after being pulled over for a broken taillight. For Don Samuels, a former 3-term Democratic city councilman, that was a call to action. It prompted him to create a nationwide crusade called Lights On. So instead of criminalizing a busted taillight, police gave $250 repair vouchers to low-income drivers, subsidized by Samuel's nonprofit.
I think it builds trust, it engenders goodwill.
No fine, no court, and no hard feelings.
That's the kind of solution-oriented thinking Samuels hoped Minneapolis leaders would use after 2020 gutted the city.
The city council was rightly concerned about the George Floyd issue and it being the tip of an iceberg of injustice. They had a right to protest. What they did then is they lost the moment and went from a righteous indignation to an extremist kind of position that saw policing as unnecessary.
But instead of focusing on fixing policing, the city council chose to funnel $2.5 million for violence interrupters, unarmed citizens who fight crime through conflict mediation.
We advocated for the creation of more unarmed safety personnel to tend to, again, all these other crises.
And we ended up with naive governance. They have sold out on this whole issue of lack of necessity of police and the fact that communities can police themselves.
Do you believe that?
No, absolutely not.
Samuel says the decision was a dangerous one.
They put everybody at risk. People are going to get killed. I assure you, if this regular citizens continues to intervene in crimes, somebody will get killed.
And that's not the only decision the city council's made that has many other leaders here in the city's concerned. It was cleanup day at this homeless encampment in South Minneapolis last month. It took 2.5 hours for the city to shovel out the accumulation of garbage that had piled up: rotting food, used drug needles, condoms, human waste, all posing dangerous health and safety conditions right next to a school for kids from preschool to 11th grade. Despite concerns that these encampments attract drug dealers and addicts and put the community at risk, City Councilman Jason Chavez is among those who approved paying $280,000 to people living in homeless encampments to clean up their own trash.
The priority should always be not lawsuits, but rather housing for people and using city resources to make sure that people can have a place to sleep at night.
Last year, the city did offer better housing to 169 people. Only 9 accepted.
Minneapolis police officers responded to multiple reports of shots being fired.
And despite the effort to make this encampment safer, just a few weeks later, a mass shooting at the same encampment and another shooting nearby left 12 people injured, 4 with life-threatening gunshot wounds.
She was shot in the head.
The encampment was immediately closed down, but there are many more.
And we have all these groups that are like, well, we must protect our unhoused neighbors. There's no group saying these are basically places for drug dealers to sell drugs. No, they're not good. They're not good for the homeless, and they're not good for our community. They are places where people die.
Dr. Carol Becker is editor of the Minneapolis Times. She worked for Democratic Mayor Sharon Sayles Belton, spent 16 years on the Board of Estimate and Taxation. She's also a college professor. Becker cites a litany of city council proposals she considers hostile to business and growth.
We have this proposal for a labor standards board that will dictate how businesses run in Minneapolis. We have a vote to close I-94 between downtown Minneapolis and downtown St. Paul because somehow we don't need to go to the suburbs anymore. And we have a vote to close the garbage burner because we're going to become zero garbage, zero waste in a year. We are 128th out of 128 Midwest cities in new housing starts. People are not coming here. And so you have to start stepping back and saying, what is it that's driving this? Who are the people leading our city? And what are they implementing that is keeping these people from investing in the city?
I agree. Businesses here are struggling.
Council Vice President and Budget Chair Aisha Chugtai oversees nearly $2 billion of your taxpayer money. She says her constituents don't share the same concerns that business has.
And just hearing them talk about like the challenges with the retention of businesses and all the things that we can actually do to stimulate economic development, we're not interested in that.
Remember where we started this story? In Uptown, where Jim Rubin showed us all the boarded up buildings and empty streets? This is Chugtai's ward. Here's what she sees.
I think Uptown has always been and always will be the comeback queen. And she's in the middle of a comeback right now.
She envisions a comeback no longer intended to attract outsiders to the area.
It was built for people who live in the suburbs and choose to visit Minneapolis. And I think that when we build a major economic hub around people who don't actually go here, then it is at the whims of whether they feel like coming here or not.
One of the things that I guess younger or far left people do not examine is the role of business in the prosperity of a region and the availability of jobs and the trajectory of the community. And so business has become sort of an enemy.
And you start to get to this question of these extremists bringing in policies that are anti-job, anti-wealth building, against small business, making it hard to get around the city.
Where does this go?
Number one, we have to decide whether or not moderates are going to come back into the discussion space.
Chugtai and Chavez are both members of the Democratic Socialists of America, or DSA. There are two others as well. Oren Chowdhury, who no longer makes reference to the DSA endorsement she promoted last election, and Robin Wansley, who's an avowed Marxist.
This is why I'm a Marxist. This is why I'm a socialist. Like, it's about having opportunity for working class people, convening opportunities for working class people to flex their power.
Robin Wansley isn't just the leader, she is the one that is introducing the most legislation and the most influential. She's the one that everybody votes with the most, and she does not believe in capitalism. She does not believe in private ownership of property. She wants the government to own it all. That's how extreme we are talking about for our city council.
Wansley led the campaign to stop the reopening of the 3rd Precinct.
Are you not paying attention to what is happening in Atlanta around Cop City? That's what you want right now? And all the inhumane you've done to working class people in this city, you really want to try that? People literally call their bluff, like, try us. Try us.
We wanted to understand how these DSA-endorsed members have so much influence on City Council when there are only 4 of them. They're not even close to a majority. Over the past 4 months, we've made several requests for sit-down interviews with each of them. 2 initially agreed and then canceled. The other simply never responded. But the question remains, how has the DSA managed to push through so many extremist proposals? So we brought in a mathematician to analyze how every member voted on every issue last year. And what we found is startling. Take a look at the numbers. It takes 7 out of 13 votes to pass a resolution by majority. Last year, mainstream Democrats, the DFL, aligned with the socialist DSA as a majority 85% of the time or more. A supermajority, which overrides mayoral vetoes, requires 9 out of 13 votes. Mainstream Democrats aligned with socialists 69% of the time or more. And get this, the council president, Elliott Payne, who ran as a mainstream Democrat, voted with the socialists 93 to 98% of the time.
But that's amazing. That's a powerful visual of Is that one party? Is that two parties? What is their true affiliation? Or are they saying what they need to say to get in the door, and maybe there's a different agenda?
Stuart Ackerberg is a lifelong Democrat from a second-generation family that's been doing business in Uptown more than 60 years.
The council member that controls the core of the commercial space in Uptown, the 10th Ward, in my opinion, has not been really pro-business, has not been pro-safety and security.
Have you ever read the DSA platform?
I have. It's frightening. Frightening. I think everyone should read it because it is astounding. I was shocked and saddened and a little afraid when I read it.
Now, this is what Ackerberg is talking about. The DSA platform. That's their goals and objectives. They want to free all incarcerated people. They want to close local jails, disarm and defund the police. They want to abolish prisons, end all misdemeanor offenses, and cut funding for prosecutors. And then they would like social ownership of all major industry and infrastructure.
We're back to communism, where government owns the whole economy, that there is no capitalism, and there's no private ownership of businesses.
How did this happen?
I was an elected official in 2017 when we first saw social media being this new organizing tool, and they used it to overthrow the moderates on the city council.
According to Becker, the DSA brought less radical groups into its fold by sounding more moderate until after the election.
And then comes in with this much, much more radical agenda. It isn't, we're going to represent the people who are here. It was, we're going to rebuild the city in our image.
Part of why I think the DSA has been successful is that we're looking at elections taking place on off years.
Political scientist Dr. David Schultz says it's no coincidence this group is ramping up for election in 2025. It's an off-year election with traditionally very low turnout. Also unusual, this election year, everybody on the city council is up for re-election. The DSA has endorsed a 5th candidate for city council, a candidate for mayor, and 2 more for Parks and Recreation.
Activists, this is their only game in town. And they're motivated, they show up, and what? In an electoral democracy, those who show up get to move the political agenda.
There are lots and lots of people who have been voting Democrat their whole lives. They don't understand that they're voting for a socialist instead of what had been the Democratic agenda. I don't know how many more years we can live with this extremist agenda, but it's not working.
For Becker, this is a fight to the finish. It's either take back her city or be forced to leave.
They're talking about a wealth tax. I had double-digit tax increases last year. I've got double-digit tax increases that are probably going to happen this year. I don't know that I can continue even to afford my home.
So we asked her, what's her breaking point?
I lived in this home for over 30 years. In the previous 30 years, the only thing that happened was somebody stole the hubcaps off my Taurus. We had 6 crimes at my house last year. Someone broke into our cars 3 times. And then we got gifted with a Kia at 3:30 in the morning that somebody had stolen and destroyed. And then I had a peeping Tom, and I have a daughter that's 18. That's pushing us. That's what worries me, and that we can't get rid of these ideologies that are leading us into bad places. The city dies. This thing that I've cared about much of my life dies.
But there's still hope. Other cities have managed to reverse such a downturn or avoid one altogether. How did they do it? That's next. Well, now comes the hard part. Where do we go from here? During the 2 years we've been researching this story, we have asked people for solutions along the way. How can Minnesota recover, maybe even thrive again? And that's led us all over the country to be talking with folks who have gone through this and who've done it. And we've learned that before there can be any real economic recovery or growth of any meaningful measure, communities first have to be safe.
Knife. Drop the knife, ma'am. Drop the knife.
You're looking at the cutting-edge technology that puts police officers in a critical situation before it happens.
Taser deployed.
To see how they'll respond.
Stay on the ground, drop the knife. Drop the knife, ma'am.
Virtual reality scenarios like these help police departments train for high-risk situations needing de-escalation. threat assessment or use of force. It's one of several solutions police in Sanford, Florida made after the city was rocked by the death of 17-year-old Trayvon Martin, shot by a neighborhood watch captain in 2012.
It ignited some things that had been in place for many, many years, especially in the Black community. There was this underlying mistrust feeling in the community.
Hired out of Illinois just after the incident, Chief Cecil Smith inherited a situation much like the one in Minneapolis today. Police officers in Sanford also quit en masse in the wake of the Trayvon Martin shooting. Smith immediately began engaging with the community.
Getting the officers out of the squad cars, getting the officers talking to the people in the community, officers going door to door.
But when it came to fixing problems with policing itself, Smith had something Minneapolis lacks. His city fully funded the department.
I always tell our commissioners is that it may cost us $50,000 to train someone, but it'll cost $5 million if something happens.
Chief Smith hired younger officers who would be open to innovative new training techniques.
Target.
Then he began partnering with a new facility in town called Decision Tactical, which trains police officers from all over the country.
We send our officers multiple times to de-escalation training. Shoot, don't shoot. What we actually do is we incorporate live actors into the simulation. And so you don't know what you're going to get when you go through the door or when you come around the corner.
Immersive training allows officers to practice critical decision-making skills in a safe, cost-effective environment. So when they're presented with people who have, say, addiction or mental health issues, they can better respond. Proponents say if Minneapolis police were able to get this kind of training, it could reduce the need for those unarmed violence interrupters that present such high liability to the cities. Sources say the MPD did look into it, but they simply didn't have the funding to pay for it.
The reality is you cannot shake up a police department without actually shaking it up.
Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara knows what it takes to bring about change. He did it in Newark, but he says many of the stakeholders in Minneapolis city government don't trust that policing can be fixed.
Newark, which is a Democratic city, but this is totally different than anything I've experienced before. There's a lot of extremes here.
And there's something else cities like Newark and Sanford have that Minneapolis does not. These other cities fully support the role law enforcement has in keeping the community safe. The result, according to Chief Cecil Smith, there hasn't been unrest in his city since the Trayvon Martin tragedy.
We have had no major issues in this community, none.
Other cities that have suffered from spiraling crime are slowly realizing the need to support policing too. San Francisco, long a beacon of progressive politics, is hoping to shed its reputation for high street crime, chronic homelessness, and sidewalk drug dealing, all of which have damaged its reputation and business prospects.
That no matter what neighborhood I go into in this city, people are begging for more safety.
The changes San Francisco is making are especially relevant to Minnesota. It's a blue state that has faced many of the same issues we now have. We asked correspondent Alan Schaffler to find out how that city is making its comeback.
Here in fog-bound San Francisco, there is some disagreement about the how, the why, the actual extent of the city's challenges post-pandemic. But on one point, there is general agreement. Everybody we've spoken with here says San Francisco still has a lot of work to do.
San Francisco looks busy. We see cable cars packed with riders, a waiting line at the new Nintendo store. Chinatown's night market pulses with energy. But the pandemic hit like a sledgehammer here. The signs still visible.
It's slow, but there are signs. There are hopeful signs.
For the first time in over 4 years, people are feeling that their city's on the right track instead of the wrong track.
Jay Chim's group backed an unprecedented school board recall effort in 2022.
They had decided Abraham Lincoln was a racist, that Dianne Feinstein did not deserve to be on an elementary school. For 18 months, our children had to learn by Zoom as the school board debated what to rename our schools.
Voters threw out 3 board members and a few months later gave the district attorney the boot as well. Cheng, who calls himself a radical moderate, has strong opinions about what drove those votes.
In the 2 years he had been in office, he made a total of 3 drug dealing convictions.
We can't take these extreme ideologies anymore. We have to be practical. We have to deal
For
with
current District Attorney Brooke Jenkins, another key to recovery, making sure the city and the business community are partners, not enemies.
The tax revenue that comes into a city allows you to fund the very programs that are needed for these very people, right? To fund the shelters beds, to fund the treatment beds, to fund public health.
Back here in Minnesota, we ask business leaders what needs to change. Remember Erin Fitzgerald, the developer who began to invest in MSP's blighted areas? She says those financial incentives necessary for growth just aren't here in the Twin Cities.
I just had a call with the head of the tourism company in San Juan, Puerto Rico, and we're looking at putting an offer in on a building there because the tax rates are so great. There's no capital gains, there's no property tax, and there's no income tax for 10 years.
Austin, Texas has always been successful at attracting business and wealth. So when it came time for this progressive city to climb out of its own post-pandemic downturn, Austin relied on lessons learned years ago. Again, we asked Alan Schaffler to find out how Austin has made its comeback.
There are lessons to be learned in the post-COVID boomtown that is Austin, Texas, a magnet for America's biggest tech firms and emerging startups. Jobs, workers, and investment cash flooding into town.
What Austin has always done is pay attention to economic development when things go south.
The Texas capital sits atop that jobs list, adding more than 225,000 in 5 years.
What you want to do as a community is create the environment in which economic development can happen. Now that means you spend money on things like infrastructure. You make sure your regulatory environment is clear and relatively speedy.
Economist and consultant John Hockenyos has helped make this city attractive to business and to job seekers for decades.
You also have to say, we're open for business. We want other companies to either relocate here, create satellite operations here, or whatever.
Coming back home now, we also asked Carol Becker, the editor of the Minneapolis Times, what she's learned about other pressing needs for change. Her answer? Our political system. Given the Twin Cities is mostly Democratic, her focus is primarily on what's happening with the Democratic Party.
The ward endorsements are done by like 200 people. There's 35,000 people in a ward, and 200 people show up and make those choices. And you just have to find the right 200 and you can get a socialist endorsed. And once they get endorsed, they usually win. The caucus system in Minneapolis is unfixably broke.
Any other nominations?
Should be done away with.
Nominations are closed.
Ranked choice voting.
Not only is it bad, I teach people how to game it. We should not have a voting system where I teach people how to game the system.
Carol Becker and others we've met with have told us Minnesota really is in a precarious state, neither safe nor stable. Our goal in producing this work over the course of the last 2 years was to investigate what's led us to this point and why haven't we recovered like so many other states. We've laid out a lot of that here, but there's one more thing, and that's hope. We're Minnesotans after all. We get things done, and it is up to us to shape our future. We hope this is the beginning of a deeper conversation, and to that end, we've created a website, precariousstate.com, where we'll continue to post new information to keep you informed. I want to thank our team, and all of us want to thank you for taking the time to learn more and lean in. Good night.